Aren't you glad that I have though, you know, come on.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. We're so grateful to have everyone here. Tonight we are going to start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'd like to excuse the superintendent tonight. Filling in for him up on the stand is our assistant superintendent, Mark Ernst. We're grateful for him. Valerie is out of town, Valerie Shields, and Alan Mortensen is with his family tonight. So we want to excuse them. We'd like to welcome our Spot SD and TEA reps, and grateful for everyone else that's here. We get to start off with, are we supposed to have a favorite part of board meeting? I do. Anyways, with the recognition part, and today it's a little close to my heart because this is where my kids go, but Stansbury High School is here for their district recognition for the month of November. So we'll turn the time over to Mrs. War.
Well, I am excited. This is my favorite part of board meeting too. So really excited to be here and represent the Stansbury Stallions. We have some amazing people to recognize today. We have a lot to choose from, and I'm very grateful for all of our stallions in our community, and the 4 that we picked and our presentation really represent the best of who we are. So I'll start out with our student, Skyly Gutierrez. And I'm going to ask her to come stand by me. Come on up, Skyly. So this beautiful young lady is a senior, and she recently won our Sterling Scholar for Vocal Performance. So that in itself is really pretty cool, but she also has overcome some challenges. Skyly and her mom faced the challenges associated with this single-parent household bravely and effectively. In addition to Skyly's heavy school schedule, she volunteers and has community service. She holds down a job to help pay for the extras in her life. One of these extras is private vocal instruction. By itself, that is commendable, but Skyly takes her academics just as seriously as she does her singing. She maintains a nearly perfect GPA, is currently enrolled in 7 college-level courses, and lends her voice to multiple public and charitable causes. She recently sang the national anthem at one of our football games, which she nailed, which was amazing. I was so proud of her. And then she had to take off and go to a performance on stage in Grantsville. Is that correct? So she's a busy young lady. Skyly's active in our extracurricular activities at school and is an example of positive thinking and has a smile that lifts and encourages others. Right there. We want to recognize Skyly as a great example of kindness, resilience, and courage. So thank you, Skyly, for being our student shining stallion. So, I think wow.
This is a gift from the Tooele Education Family.
That's nice. Okay, so Skyly's biggest fan is here, and that's her mom. Do you want to introduce your mom? Stand up, Mom. We told you you'd have to. So that's Skyly's mom. Skyly told me that her mom deserves it more than she does because her mom's had to deal with all her crying. So that's what moms do. So congratulations, Skyly. All right, so the next one I would like to recognize is our volunteer, Shining Stallion, is Lisa Burgetts. Come on up, Lisa. So I recently got to know Lisa a little bit more. One of our challenges at Stansbury High School is feeding thousands of hungry young teenagers every day. And trying to get them through 2 lunches, and it's been a challenge, and we are rapidly improving on some cool things. But at the beginning, we're shorthanded in our nutrition staff and food service, and so we asked for volunteers. And Lisa pitched in like every day for days. She would just come volunteer for lunches. I think some of you guys did that too, and serve. And it was so cool for me to just see that. Commitment and kindness, and she went above and beyond, not only serving but also looking out for some of our students in need, and suggesting some very cool ideas. One of her ideas was about using some of our culinary arts students to help in the food service, help with our lunchroom, and that worked out. So I know, yeah. So it was a really great idea. So we're here to recognize Lisa for just her pure kindness and giving of her time and service and loving our stallions as much as we do. So thank you so much, and this one is for you. Thank you. So you can go. And I think Lisa has probably her biggest fan. Is that your husband? Hi, husband. Does he have a name? Mr. Burgetts. So thanks, Lisa. All right. The next one we want to recognize is our classified employee of the year for us is Kristen Cavey. I don't think I could function without Kristen. Kristen is diehard stallion. She's been in there since before the Stansbury was even there, right?
That is true.
And so she is involved in so many things. Her official title is Concurrent Enrollment and Scholarship Coordinator, but she goes above and beyond. She loves to support our extracurricular excellence, especially like our football. So she's always involved in the organization and behind the scenes stuff of our football and many of our other activities. I recently talked her into being our ACT coordinator. That is a huge job. She'll be okay. And so she is doing that. A couple years ago when we had to do our online graduation, Kristen, it was a huge success because of Kristen and her efforts. So anything that needs to be done, we kind of just give it over to Kristen and have her help. She helps me with master schedule too, and that's a huge thing. So Kristen, we just want you to know how much we love and appreciate you, the work that you do, a lot for free. But we share our love with you, so thank you, and there you go. Yep. And I know that she's here with her husband, Jim. Stand up, Jim. Own it. He lets her spend lots of hours with us too, so we appreciate that. Okay, and then our classified employee, or our certified employee of the year, is the amazing Mitzi Correz. So Mitzi, come on up. I cannot say enough about this amazing lady. She was chosen as our Certified Employee of the Year because she regularly goes above and beyond in everything she does. She assists and supports students, teachers, administrators, and parents. She's always available for teachers and students, regardless of which counselor they are assigned. She teaches mental health strategies in classrooms and runs support groups for students. She is understanding and works with teachers in how classes are scheduled, and she keeps the faculty and community informed with the monthly counseling newsletter, also as part of the community council. She's very organized and professional. She's friendly and kind. She's an excellent teacher and mentor. She's worked with numerous new counselors. She became a department head very soon. Like, I think you became like a professional, you got your professional license, and then boom, we put you in as department head. But conducts trainings for the faculty, is engaging and informative. One of the things that I love the most is that she really has a sense of the social and emotional needs of our students. Along with her group, she's part of our relationship and culture vision group, where we're focusing on training on QPR and the ACEs training for the at-risk students, and lots of things that just educating us and training us at the school. So she really is one of my right hands. I think Kristen has one and Missy has the other, and I should have tentacles because lots of people help. But anyway, Mitzi, we couldn't do it without you, so very grateful. You're very deserving of Shining Stallion. So there you go. And then I'll have you. Have to have a craft party. I know that her fan group's here too as well. Her husband Randy and her kids. All her beautiful girls are here. We're grateful for them. So, all right, and then our little presentation today comes from one of my very favorite groups, and that is our Hope Squad. So if you guys want to come up, we had Hope Week last week. Huge success. Like, these guys know how to do things, and it was just such a fun week every day. So I'm going to turn the time over to them to let them share what the Hope Squad is and what we did.
All right, so going from my far left, your far left, to right, we have Avery Knudsen, Kayla Wilcox, Lauren Bryan, and myself, Peyton Blazard. As many of you know, Hope Squad is a peer-to-peer suicide prevention group. Our goal is to prevent suicide through public awareness and education, reduce stigma, and be a source to those touched by suicide.
We're here to help students and families find ways to get the support they need and become stronger as a community. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a community to save one.
So last week we celebrated Hope Week at Stansbury High, as we just said. The purpose of Hope Week is to help Hope Squad to be more recognizable to the student body, and also to raise awareness that there's always someone who cares. Our theme was be the one to hope, be the one to notice, be the one to make a difference. Latinos in Action, FCCLA, Cheer, and tons of other groups participated in helping us decorate our school. It was really great to see all the love and support from all the different clubs and teams. We had activities every day during lunches and dress-up days. I think our favorite dress-up day was unpack your burdens and bring anything but a backpack to school. That one was very interesting. We served the students popcorn one day and hope floats another day. We had games, bracelet making, and we painted a large canvas that the students could write how they can be the one on.
The theme for November was to be the one to show gratitude. We're so grateful for the love and support we got from the Stallion family and from the community. Thank you.
They are the one. They're a great example, and they're led by some amazing people. Tony Broadhead's here and Carol Johnson. We also have Mitzi Corez as part of that leadership, and Margie Moser, and is that all of them? Sarah Nystrom. So great big group. We have a class for them, and they do an amazing job. So just to add that unpack your burdens, bring anything but a backpack. We saw shopping carts and strollers and a wheelbarrow and, oh my goodness, suitcases. And there were just so many things. It was hilarious. It was one of my best days, too. And then we had Fancy Friday where Miss Broadhead and Miss Moser came in their formals. It's awesome. So if you want to see pictures, I'll have to post them. They were beautiful. So it was really fun day, fun week, great energy. So I'm very grateful for our Hope Squad and the work that they do in making Stansbury a safer place to attend school. So that is it, a little bit of Stansbury High School. So, good.
Thank you so much, Stansbury High School. There's lots of exciting things going on. All right, we will move into patron comments. Don't feel obligated to stay. We'd love to have you all stay, but if you want a graceful exit, you can go now, or you can wait till patron comments, or we'd love to have you stay for the whole thing. But anyways, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. Okay, so patron comments, when you come up to the mic, if you will state your name. Each patron is allowed 5 minutes for a total of 30 minutes. We don't have that many people, but your limit is 5 minutes. And we will go ahead and get started. We have, I know I'm going to slaughter your last name, Janine McEachran. Okay. Sorry, I know you've been here before.
It's okay. It's totally okay.
But thank you for coming.
No problem. Okay. I am Janine McEachran. I teach kindergarten at Sterling. Teachers are salaried employees, so there really isn't a thing called overtime in our field. Our salary is based on a 7.5-hour day for approximately 180 days. We recognize as salaried employees that work needs to get done, even if it must sometimes be done outside of normal working hours. When I look at my husband's salaried job, I see someone who occasionally goes to work early or stays late to work on projects. There are deadlines to meet, and deadlines don't care about 9 to 5 shifts. The huge difference I see between his job and my job is that I am regularly working outside of my hours. I am regularly coming in early and staying late because it is nearly impossible to get all my projects done in the regular hours. Time is the issue. That's where other colleagues and I started our path to finding solutions. That was the whole reason we spoke up in the first place, to start a conversation and begin finding solutions regarding our time. We are not playing victims, and we are not trying to be the loudest or the most obnoxious. We are raising our voices to develop awareness. Our first attempt to understand where problems stem from was to encourage teachers to keep track of how they spent their planning time and how much time they were working before and after school hours. This task was enlightening for myself. I noticed that sometimes on Wednesdays, I spent a good chunk of time beyond PLCs to continue collaborating with colleagues. While this collaboration was useful, I learned the need to be more concise, and that too much collaboration can turn into a time trap. I imagine most, if not all, teachers could step back and see places where time is wasted. But this isn't unique to our profession only. The effective use of time falls to the responsibility of those who are given time and those who allocate time. After gathering some preliminary data, our goal was to find other time traps. One big offender is data entry. For example, there are 4 times a year that I would guess all kindergarten teachers dread, and that is filling out our end-of-term report cards for kindergarten-based report cards. Kindergarten report cards are very tedious and time-consuming to fill out. In collaborating with a first grade teacher who previously was a kindergarten teacher, she wondered why not use Illuminate to populate forms like kindergarten report cards and SB 260s for other grade levels. Programs like Illuminate provide parents with meaningful data-driven reports to help them understand their child's progress. Additionally, if we can simplify our data entry, we can spend more time analyzing and using the data effectively. She has since taken the initiative to reach out to the district employees, including IT specialists, to come up with plans for streamlining data entry. Some of the other suggested ideas regarding use of time are using time cards to account for IEPs or stat meetings that occur before or after school hours. One person out of our district told me that they have substitutes who are specifically assigned to cover classes for the time a teacher needs to attend an IEP meeting, stat meeting, or a parent conference. There are also ideas to add faculty meetings to the pay schedule in the same way that parent-teacher conferences are built into our pay schedule. A year worth of faculty meetings equates 2 full workdays. The other idea is to hire aides to cover recess and other duties. I'm lucky at Sterling we have people like that, but not all schools have recess aides or other duty aides. Some of these ideas might not be feasible. Hiring more positions requires more money. There are many positions around the district that are sitting vacant this year due to hiring shortage. So opening more positions could be a laughable idea. In the end, maybe most of these ideas are not feasible, but change comes from a quantity of ideas. As a Nobel Prize-winning chemist said, the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. Although this will be my last month for Patron Comments, I hope the dialogue regarding teacher time will continue. I have shared many of these ideas with a member of a scheduling committee at the district level. I appreciate the support I have received from teachers, school board members, district employees, and community members. I hope we can all pause and be reflective and not find offense in those who speak up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next patron comment, Mitzi Belverstone. Go ahead.
Good evening, board members and district employees. My name is Mitzi. I'm a special needs bus driver. I would like to thank you all for what you have done for us. I was here in May asking why you cannot bring back the PTO and URS benefits that were taken away in 2013. We are losing yet another bus driver this week due to the lack of benefits. I know we hire on knowing there are no benefits, but we still hold on to hope of getting them or advancing to positions that are benefited. I go to the lunchrooms to speak with the staff about the association. They cannot talk because they are short-staffed. I pull into the bus lane at the school and must wait on a para to get the kids because they are short-staffed. Times are definitely changing, so we as a district must change as well to keep our classified employees. The bus drivers and paras that work directly with special needs, kindergarten, preschool students get sick from the sick kids. And when they call out because of this, they lose $80 to $100 a paycheck, and it really affects them. Fast food restaurants are starting new hires at $13 to $15 an hour. Paras and bus aides start out at $13.58 an hour, often less than fast food workers, and yet they stay. It is because they enjoy working with the students. You as board members need to retain these valuable and quality types of employees. The bus garage is now down 11 drivers. 2 of 4 mechanics, transportation director, assistant director, trainer, assistant trainer, Mr. Nelson, IT director, Mr. Porter, human resource, and Clay from food service are out driving because of the shortage. Our trainers can't even train because of being out on the bus. We have had to charter all activity trips for a few days and doubling up on routes, which causes students to be late to school and home. Students don't even know what buses they are taking home sometimes. If you look at the hours, time, and amount of money invested in a new driver, would it not make more sense to retain drivers and their experience instead of replacing drivers who move on to jobs that offer benefits? We understand that this is a statewide problem, but we truly feel giving employees that work 20 or more hours, at least 3 days of PTO, and letting employees participate in the URS, it would make a substantial difference in retaining current employees throughout the district and attracting new, reliable, professional people. This should not be, and it should not be, a benefit we have to negotiate for. It should come with being a Tooele County classified district employee. Not having any type of benefits gives us the impression that we are not needed or a part of the district. Our invitation is still open to the board members and the district administration to come ride the various school buses and see things on a first-hand basis. Another driver has said, as a team, we have looked outside the box for ways to cover many positions we are struggling to fill. We have taken a close look at the routes and duties of our drivers and attendants and assessed if neighboring routes can be absorbed in these existing stops and duties. It could take the 3 neighboring routes to do this, and sometimes it's simply not an option. Taking this deeper look has made us aware that there are many opportunities to be more fiscally responsible with other routes in areas of our department. As these opportunities arise and the financial savings are gained, it would be appreciated if a small portion of these savings we use to cover the cost of the benefits. This small portion would increase morale of our current team and recruiting potential of future team members. As we are aware, things change, and it is our goal as a team to be better fiscally responsible in the public's eyes so that as requests are made of our community, they may be better made, received, and backed. Thank you for your time, and we really do need your help.
Thank you. Okay, our next patron comment is Rebecca Richard.
Yes, please come with me. No. Actually, I have my husband here with me too. This is really intimidating, you guys.
Don't be
Hi, I'm Rebecca
intimidated.
Richard, or Richard. It's, if you're in Texas, it's pronounced Richard, but we're in Utah, so it's Richard. You can stand closer to me. Good evening, board members and district employees. As a transportation driver, woohoo, and also a transition driver, I really thank you for listening to us. I'm coming to you guys to see if we can get the extra, or for our bus drivers and our bus attendants, just not the 29.5 hours a week. Like Mitzi said, we're doing everything we possibly can do to get these kids to school on time and in a timely manner. This has been a big conflict in the transportation department. Like Mitzi said, Lori gets drivers and attendants trained, and even with the stipend, they stay there for the 6 months or the year, and then after that, they leave because they can go into Salt Lake, get better paying jobs, get more pay on their jobs, and get benefits and the sick time and the personal time. And I work a lot with the transition teachers, and when she has sick kids, she loses that work, and she's like, Becky, how am I going to make up that extra $100 that I was supposed to get that day? And I said, we'll pray. And so that's what I've been doing a lot. But so if it can make it better to remedy this situation and drop this restrictions and get more than the 29.5 hours a week, I believe we would be able to hold on to a lot of our employees, and we wouldn't have such the overturn rate that we're experiencing. I've been with the Tooele School District since 2008, and I have loved every single part of it. I was a bus attendant for 3 years because I was so intimidated by the bus because it was a 40-foot bus, and I'm like thinking, there's no way in God's green earth I am going to drive a 40-foot bus. But my husband, who has a lot of courage and belief in me, he's like, you can do all things. And I'm like, oh, you're crazy. And so if we could just do this and be team players again and get this resolved, it would be awesome. And I really do appreciate everything that you guys have done and that you are doing for the school district. Thank you very much. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Just to sum up the patron comments, we heard about teacher timing and lots of ideas. So thank you, and grateful that I think you're meeting and passing those ideas on to who they go to. The bus drivers, I know in our work meeting, we talked a lot about it last week. We hear you. We are so grateful for you. Many of us have kids and grandkids that ride the buses daily. And anyways, thank you so much for coming and sharing your concerns and ideas, because I think that's part of it is the ideas. And if, we can make them work, I'm sure I know we're at the drawing boards with them. So thank you very much. Okay. On to the consent agenda. Are there any concerns with the consent agenda? I was going to say, I have one, so I was going to pull something, but I didn't know if anyone else did. Camille?
Yeah, I do. 4.9. Can we pull that one, please?
Yes. That was the one I was going to pull, so that works. Anyone else? Okay, so should we look for a motion or discuss the 4.9 first?
Usually we take care of the consent items first.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm looking for a motion.
I motion that we approve the consent items as presented. Second.
It's been moved by Scott and seconded by Bob to adopt the consent items barring 4.9. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, 4.9, the ESSER plan. Camille?
Okay, so I just had, I think for the most part, most of it looks pretty good based off of what we talked about at our last work meeting, except for, and maybe I'm wrong and I just want to make sure that we were all on the same page. I don't remember the online tutoring being part of the priorities that we had highlighted. Does anybody else remember it that way, or is that something?
Yeah, I don't remember. We had a lot of great ideas that were done, and then we said, okay, I think that, and this is what we were asking, were the highlighted, so then at the end of the meeting, we talked about the highlighted items being the ones that were going to get put on the ESSER plan, I thought. Were you guys, is that how it was thought?
That was my understanding.
Okay.
That was mine as well.
Okay. And so I think, Lark, I don't think that was highlighted. And I'm not opposed to necessarily anything. I just want to make sure, because that wasn't one of the highlighted items. And I looked, I think, Matt Jackson, you sent us the information on it's called paper. Anyways, I'm not necessarily opposed. I just know there was a long list of other things that were up there.
There's a higher priority.
That was a higher priority. But was it highlighted and I just missed it? I don't think so. I had you email me the highlighted things.
I did. I had a question on that myself, but you're right. We have a lot of good uses of the funds highlighted there. I've been saying all along that how far 7.5 million will go amongst all those priorities, I don't know yet. But the good news is to know where we categorize them, and if that was one of those that's towards the bottom, we can treat it that way. Yeah.
Could we make? Well, how about make a motion? I'll make a motion for it, and then we can have a discussion if we want to go further. I would have proposed that we adopt the ESSER application as presented, with the exception of the $750,000 that were for the online tutoring.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so does anyone have thoughts on it, or what? I mean, if there's $750,000 less. Oh, sorry, Julia.
Well, so I just have a question for Lark. So if we who decides the priority of which comes first, and does that have to be in the application, the priority, or are you just putting in everything and then we decide the priority later?
I think the intent was to put everything in for the application so we were flexible, but yeah, the intent would be that we would sit down with administration and make sure we have I was going off of the first ones that were highlighted, thinking they were the biggest priorities and would move on down the list. Yeah, our intent was to discuss that with administration and make sure we have a good plan to go use as much of that 7.5 towards the projects you wanted. So maybe if you want, we could even bring it back and actually prioritize them by number if you'd like to do that. But right now they were just highlighted in yellow. And
Well, and I was just looking over the application again, and I'm not seeing any of the capital things on there. Did we decide none of those, or are they somewhere that I'm not seeing them?
okay.
Well, I'm looking at the actual application.
I think, as I recall the conversation, and that maybe it was just my takeaway, but we had discussed that the capital was pretty limited because of the constraints of that.
Of what we
monies.
could do.
Yeah, it was, ventilation or things that we could tie really closely to COVID, but it wasn't like we could spend that money on, as I recall that conversation.
Well, and is there a chance that there will be money left for the tutoring service? Like I said, I just know that we were looking at the highlighted items, and so I didn't know if that was one that we needed to really consider for one reason or another more so, or what. Anyways, I don't know.
Good question. I think, can I answer the capital one?
Sorry.
I believe under the remainder of the plans, so I happen to be on page 12 of 21 when you're looking at it that way. There was a line in there about technology purchases and capital improvements specifically for air quality. We felt that was very broad, and hopefully that covered.
And we could
those
do
highlighted
like the
ones.
5G and some of those big,
Yeah,
at least
5G
part
is
of them?
in the paragraph below that, but yep,
Okay.
exactly.
All right,
Question
so
get answered. Okay.
it kind of did, because I'm trying to think. So all of the highlighted things are pretty much listed in this plan, but
In the plan.
the not highlighted things are not.
Correct.
Okay.
Except for that 750.
Right.
Okay.
So like curriculum adoption and all those were things that we were
I mean, I saw
passionate
a lot
about. Yeah.
I just,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things were highlighted from that meeting. Is everyone comfort? I mean, we just want to make sure there's enough money for the highlighted ones from that meeting. And if there's still more money, great, right? We'll go off of this list.
Well, there's plenty of ideas if there happens to be money left over.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
I think the concern is that that's 1/10. I mean, it's 10% of the
Yeah,
total,
that's a
right?
huge
That's
amount.
a large percentage of, and Camille, some of those things you talked about, like on capital, the internet one that we had talked about, of being able to use those as hotspots, the schools as those hotspots for, I mean, those are probably going to be decently expensive. I mean, they're not going to be cheap. And so if we burn through it up at the top, kind of that top list, we're not going to have much on the page 21, or 22 or whatever it was, at the bottom that you were just referencing. I don't know.
Exactly.
That's,
I like the idea of having it listed as a priority, like
I
a
do.
priority list of what, I mean, I know it's all needed, but I guess what is recommended, kind of priority. Because like you said, like if the bulk of it goes towards, these top things, and then we only have $1 to give to 5G, I don't know that anyone, you get what I'm saying? Like I would rather the majority, I don't know. Do you guys feel that same way?
Yeah. Bob, you have your light on.
Well, I agree I think we ought to go through and maybe from the highlighted list, then it needs to be prioritized. Because all we did in that meeting was select those highlighted lists. We didn't put any priority or anything else on them. And I agree, there's some of those that are going to maybe have a higher priority with the board than others, like solving our substitute, solving the bus, the driver problems, things like that.
Which
that
is
we
on
did-
here.
Which is on there.
Which is on our list.
So anyway, those are some things that, you know, maybe as a board, we need to put a priority on those highlighted items.
So is it the board? Is it everybody that's prioritizing or just the, like, SES committee that's prioritizing the highlighted?
I don't know.
That's,
a
I'm
good
just
question.
wondering.
Well,
Hold on.
at the end of the day, we have the rights to prioritize it, guys. I mean, however we want to do it is not, Julie, I mean,
Well, I just meant, when, we need to put that back on an agenda then, if we're gonna be a
yeah,
part
we
of
didn't
that
define it,
discussion.
Right.
right?
Okay, Lark and then Mark.
I was simply going to say, if my thought originally, unless you want to actually do it in an open meeting, was we could email out and have you rank the ones that were highlighted 1 through 7 or whatever they are. We could start there to answer your question, Julia. We could even expand it to SES if you want, cabinet, whoever you'd want. But I think that'd be a quick way of prioritizing it, and then we can bring the data back and here it is.
Except I think you have to do that in an open meeting. That conversation has to occur we can't have a rank vote outside of an open meeting.
But couldn't we as individual members just send it to Lark of what we would want, and then he could bring it back as far as data of this many board members voted for 5G? as
My
number one?
opinion is that you're pushing the limits of open
Of
meeting
open
law.
meeting.
I feel like that's a pretty close to a vote, even if you're doing it outside of this
Okay,
meeting.
Mark.
Yeah, we could easily talk about it in our cabinet meeting. We could also include Ian Silva, Michael Garcia, the people in the district who are over these areas that it would impact. And then we could bring that list to you, not necessarily even in a prioritize, but kind of with some greater detail. And then you guys in open meeting could say, hey, here's kind of our number one item. And then you could rank those down. Then that would give us clear direction on where to go with that.
Scott and then Camille.
I like that idea because that's exactly, I mean, administration brings us things on a regular basis. We'll tweak them in a board meeting, but even if, frankly, Mark, I would suggest you actually do prioritize them. You might find, just as long as you don't have your feelings hurt, that number 3 turns into number 7 or, you know, or whatever, but at least they start and then it's a straw man and we go from there, but at least.
Right.
My only question is when's this due?
That was what I was,
okay.
It's the end of the year, right?
Well, we technically already submitted it, so this is the revised.
So we're okay to
budget.
put it off
Until December?
Yeah, they have been asking us for details of where it was approved, board approved, but I don't know why we couldn't wait another month if you wanted to and bring it back in December, or?
Would it be, maybe we could look at it for work session? We'll look at the agenda, if that's okay, if December's an option.
We just can't
Is
vote on it in
Decem-
our work session.
Oh, that's right. Okay, we'll just have to wait till December if,
Or we could switch it up, like if you took something out of work session.
yeah, that's it. Well, we still can't vote on it in a work session, though.
Well, you can as long
Well,
as
you
it's on the
can,
agenda.
as long as it's on the agenda, actually.
As an action item.
Well, I'll withdraw my motion.
Then I motion we table the
'Cause I made a
ESSR
motion.
agreement.
Yes, you did.
I don't know if I called that right. I motion we table 4.9 until our December board meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Camille, seconded by Bob, that we table 4.9. Yes, table 4.9. Sorry. Any discussion to that? I think. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. 5.1, Tooele Education Foundation Biannual Report. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to share how your Education Foundation is enriching and enhancing education in Tooele County School District. Superintendent Rogers let me know what in particular you wanted to hear tonight, and I really appreciated having that guidance because we could go all over the place with things that we're doing, but tonight I'd just like to talk mostly about how it is affecting, what we do is affecting children in the classroom. But before I begin, on behalf of TEF and on our board, which I want to also say is a really extraordinary group of people who work very hard on behalf of the students in our district. We want to thank you, and Superintendent Rogers, if you're out there somewhere. Because of this support, combined with the hard work and contributions of many others, the foundation has grown in ways we couldn't even have imagined. In April of this coming year, we will begin our 12th year since being formed. So the written report that you received in advance of this meeting describes many of the ways we are currently able to positively impact students in our district. So rather than rehearsing the information in the report, and I hope that you'll take the time to look at those, there are many other things that we're doing, but that kind of highlights those things that we're doing in classrooms. I want to share just a couple of our projects in a little more depth. I was told that you value brevity and succinctness, and I hope not to disappoint. So the first project I'd like to highlight comes from Kristen Linares, who is a special education specialist. Kristen works with a wonderful group of students, and she and those with whom she works teach these students life and job skills. She recognized that transportation to and from work could be an issue for these students. She submitted a grant request for funds to purchase bicycles so these students could master the skills necessary to make cycling to work safely a viable option. They've been using these bicycles with students for several months now. And I want to share the note that I received last week from Casey Blazard from Adapted PE. I hope I can do this. Many, many, many thank yous from the grant to purchase bikes for Adapted PE. Our two students are all smiles and excited to learn how to ride a bike to better their life. Both students expressed their excitement to ride to work and ride like the other neighborhood kids. These bikes will help so many more students in the future. Thank you. So many of our grants are small, less than $1,000 most of the time. But when I see what can be done, a few $100s seems to be leveraged into a great deal more in terms of value. Now, the second project I'd like to share is a garden project done by Mrs. Reynolds. Can we pull that up? Her fourth grade class at Stansbury Park Elementary School. So she provided TEF with a 6-slide PowerPoint that I really want you to see. The narration for the slides was submitted by several of her students. And so go ahead to the next slide. So at the beginning, getting permission and finding a spot. Brooklyn wrote, "We voted on a project to work on this year. We decided to create a garden that would give students a chance to have fresh vegetables and herbs, but also give any extra produce to the homeless. We then wrote letters to Mrs. Silva to ask for permission. Once we had permission, we looked for a good spot for our garden. Our custodian, Teddy, thought this would be a good spot, and we agreed." Now, you can teach kids to write letters, and you can teach them to write. But when they write a letter for something that they really want to happen, that's when the magic occurs. So next, designing the spot. Dallin wrote, "We worked on designing our garden spot. As we explored ways to design our spot, we learned about area and perimeter. We used everyone's ideas in our final design." You can teach area and you can teach perimeter, but when it comes to life, it stays. Okay, next. Alistair wrote, "We planted seeds indoors to learn about plant structure and their growth cycle. We did experiments to learn about what plants needed to grow and be healthy. We have a grow table in our classroom, so we were able to watch and journal about the progress of our plants. We created a line plot with how tall our plants were getting." We learn about how plants grow in elementary school. But when you watch these things happen, whether it's in an aquaponics program or in a class garden, sometime down the line, it could be in a high school class, it could even be a college class. When they talk about in a biology class, they're going to say, I have seen that work. It finally plugs into the schema. They might not understand everything about it right this minute, but it provides that framework for things to fit in later. So Odd wrote on the last slide, we had a wonderful donation of 5 garden boxes from parents. We set the boxes up and watched how the sun shone on them to make sure we had enough light. We adjusted the garden box placement and could not wait until our soil was delivered. And Kate wrote, finally the delivery day arrived with a donation of soil from Adobe Rocks. We all came to help fill the boxes with soil. We had a lot of fun. And then finally, Larson wrote, once the soil was ready, we anxiously have been waiting for warmer nights to plant our plants. We've planted some pea, lettuce, carrot, and cabbage seeds. We also planted some pumpkin plants that were not doing well inside. We met at Home Depot to purchase more vegetable, herb, and flower plants. We wanted to have a variety of things in our garden. We have had a great experience learning about gardening this year. So this was the follow-up. Linda, I got this a couple of months ago. I just wanted to follow up on the grant that TEF gave us last spring for our garden. Here's what happened with the garden. The slides show our progress through last school year. But I want to tell you that since we created this garden, we've developed a gardening club for 2nd to 6th graders. We have 52 participants at this time. The students are starting a fall crop of lettuces and cabbages. We've been able to provide the lunchroom with tastes of our produce for the students to try. The students are in the process of designing a greenhouse and collecting materials to build it. The hope is to expand the garden a little bit each year. Thank you so much for TEF's contribution and helping us get our dream off the ground. Both of these projects came from $500 grants. But I think we got a whole lot more than $500 out of those. Thank you again for giving me the privilege and the joy of showing you a little tiny bit of what your foundation does. And thank you for believing in us and helping us help kids. Do you have any questions for me?
It was awesome. Thank you. Our kids see the benefit of it for sure. So we appreciate all you do.
It's a wonderful place to be.
So yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next thing on the agenda, emergency closure guidelines. Dr. Ernst, if you'll.
Yeah, so I think these were on the board agenda last month. It's just a review. They're just guidelines. They don't need to be voted on or anything like that. So it's just information. Dr. Rogers wanted to know if there was any feedback from the board as far as implementation or suggestions for the guidelines, just to kind of finish these up and so we're ready to go in case there's any emergency closures, weather related or otherwise emergency.
Does anyone else? I have questions, but did anyone else? Okay, really quick, the only thing I think that, well, not the only thing, well, probably anyways, is I'm a little concerned about the elementary thing. I didn't see, I mean, it says the remote option is made possible because of most of our students are now equipped with one-on-one computing devices, and our elementary schools have created systems for providing students with advanced notice of weekly learning expectations. Most elementary kids, from what I understand, because I have some of them, they don't bring their things home daily.
Correct.
And so is there something specific? I'm just worried. That's one of my concerns. And I know this isn't a policy, but I don't know. I'm wondering if we're forgetting a whole section of our student population on this. And I don't know. Does anyone else have anything, or is it just my concern?
No, I agree. Yeah.
Well, the only thing I've seen is that, and I don't know this for a fact, we'd have to ask people in the elementary schools, but it sounds like that they've been kind of given the task of maybe during this time that, school closure could occur, or especially with bad weather or things coming up, that, with the learning boards and things like that, the students know where they're headed. They have packets. Sounds like some of them are carrying packets and that type of thing home. I don't know about what Google Classroom even looks like, so somebody'd have to explain that to me. So
Yeah. What I can do, I can work with Dr. Rogers upon his return to get some more specific guidelines for what it looks like for our elementary teachers. That would be a concern. I mean, if we were to go to a remote day tomorrow, our elementary teachers and students wouldn't be prepared for it. Sometimes we know, if we know bad weather's coming, or in weather's one thing, right? We can kind of gear up for a storm. But if there's another emergency that causes closure, that's probably going to hit us unexpectedly. So we can create kind of some guidelines and some training to our principals and teachers. So in the event that we do need to close schools, especially at the elementary level, there's at least a plan in place for what those students would do. And that's if we go to an online day. We do have an option just to close school, kind of the traditional way, right? We take a snow day, or we do a delayed start. This would be a situation where we say students don't report to school, it's an online day, and then we would have to have procedures in place for what that learning looks like for those students.
Yeah. Julia?
And I agree. And because, with the elementary, I know a lot of them don't take it home, and I don't know how that would work so much, except for that when we do a makeup day, we get probably less than 50% of them back to figure
Right.
that out also. So
No, and I'm not suggesting, I think the online day is the way to go, but I think there's just got to be a little more clarifying language and make sure it's, just professional as it goes out. And it seems fine, I think. Right? This is a guideline, but.
Correct.
And at the end of the day, I think that when those occur, you just have to kind of flow with it. It's one of those cases that you do what you can and you move on.
Yeah.
But I think the idea, though, is as a board, we want to move towards online learning rather than trying to make up the day at the end of the year. And I believe that's what this guideline is supposed to be kind of targeting. Is that right, Dr. Ernst? Is just the idea of that the board is saying, yes, we are moving forward with online days rather than making it up at the end of the year.
Correct.
Or
That is
in
correct.
February, whenever that extra
Yes, that's
day
correct.
is.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, so that's just an information discussion item, right?
Yeah, so I'll go
no
back.
action.
I'll work with
Okay.
Dr. Rogers, and we'll about what it looks like for elementary, and then I heard a comment about language, cleaning up language. Sounds so funny that way, right?
I didn't see bad language
Not bad
in there.
language at all. No. Making sure the language is professional as we send it out and easy for families to understand.
Okay, that sounds great. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay. Let's move on to continuous improvement. Dr. Ernst, you're in the hot seat again.
Yes, this is an exciting one. So Matt, if you can bring up that presentation. Yeah, I'm going to give you both of you an opportunity to talk. So I love this quote. The best way to predict the future is to invent it. Interesting enough, I initially had that as Steve Jobs. Come to find out that quote is credited to a lot more people than just Steve Jobs. So I took the name off because I couldn't adequately cite my source. So I don't know who is it. So remembering that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. On the next slide, Ed Catmull in Creativity Inc., I've reworked, adapted a quote from him. He says, invention is an active process resulting from decisions we make for us to change Tooele County School District, we must bring new things into being. And I think that a strategic model is that new thing that we need to bring into play. On the next slide, it asks, why are we developing a strategic model? A couple reasons. Number one, first and foremost, is we recognize we don't have a strategic model. We don't know exactly where our areas of focus are. This was highlighted by a presentation given a couple months ago by Cody Reitzel. Also, we worked with Julia brought in John Lerner from Canada. And then just a desire from leadership in the district to focus our efforts a little bit. So that's what we got looking at. The next slide says, why strategic model? 3 main reasons, and I want to read these, even though that may not be PowerPoint etiquette, because they're so vital. A strategic model drives a systematic approach to becoming a comprehensively sound school district. A strategic model illustrates the purpose of our focus, activity, and effort, and a strategic model provides metrics for each component, informs our progress, highlights growth, and holds us accountable for student success. Now, so then that leads us to what is student success? Now, I want you to know that what you see in front of you is just a draft working. We really haven't ferreted out exactly whether or not we're 100% good with this model, but basically ensuring all students acquire essential knowledge, skills, and dispositions. This may change a little bit as we continue on into the development of our strategic model, but for our purposes in developing, we are confident that ensuring that all of our students in Tooele County School District acquire those essential knowledge, skills, and dispositions gets us to where we need to go. So our next slide, Matt, you're probably maybe 2 slides. One more, Matt. So as we look at student success, if we read this from bottom up, we see that there's elements, components, and then student success. So in order for us to have student success, there are certain components that are vital the Tooele County School District must have in place to ensure student success. And there are certain elements of each of those components that make sure the elements ensure component success. So as we worked, and we've been working for about a month and a half, multiple meetings, we had 2 driving questions, and that's on our next slide. The driving questions for our components. So anytime we would talk about something, we would ask ourselves this question: is this component an area where Tooele County School District must excel in to create student success? If it was not an area that we don't need to excel in, then we can just push that to a side. We don't need to worry about that. But if it is an area that we must excel in, we know that that's a vital component for our success and our student success. And then as we looked at each element for the components, our driving question is, must that element be in place to be successful in that corresponding component? So on the next slide, you see that in graphic. So for the words, and again, the elements lead to component success. The component success leads to student success. Now, I'd like to ask Julia, who's been a part of this process from almost the beginning, and Melissa, who's helped us in one of our meetings. I don't know if there's anything you would like to say about the process before we look at the components a little bit deeper. And it's okay if you say no, but.
So I really like the process. I really like the questions, and I really think the discussion in the group that we have done is just excellent. We've really brought out a lot of different issues, and we've been very specific and focused in terms of what really are we looking at for student success. And I really think that's kind of been missing in this whole framework of the district. And so I'm just so excited about this process.
I was just going to say the thing I like about it too, like from the board perspective, is I loved the questions. Anyway, so as we create policy, which is what the board does, are we making sure that policy is in line or helps the elements with the components, because the reason all of us are here is because of students, and we create policy. Anyway, so it was really awesome to see our lead educators going through this process and being like, well, yeah, that's, yes, and I want that too. And it was really cool to be a part of. So thank you. And,
Yeah. Thank you. So on the next slide, you'll see what we've come up with is 5 areas, 5 components that we feel are vital for student success in Tooele County School District. The first one, teachers, leaders, and support staff. We must have qualified employees who are well-trained, well-paid, well taken care of in order to provide our students with success. We must have curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into that one in a moment. We know that relationships and the culture that we have in the school district are vital to creating the educational environment for students to thrive in. We also know that we have to have a safe and orderly environment. We actually, in one of our processes, we walked through an entire school day with a student from the student's point of view, from the time they wake up till when they get on the bus, to who they encounter at the front of the school, to say, how are we looking at this? Are we hitting everything we need to do? And as we did that, we realized that having a safe and orderly environment is necessary for that student to learn. And then a system of operations, when we talk about our having buildings, having custodians, having all of these other systems, finances, all of these different areas that must be in place, again, for a district to provide student success. The next slide, we're going to look down, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into curriculum, instruction, and assessment. This was a great exercise to get to this point, and it was fun to walk the road. The 4 elements that we feel are vital to create have success in the component of curriculum, instruction, and assessment are a credible and consistently implemented curriculum. Our teachers have to be teaching the right things. Also, an embedded use of the instructional framework. We know that our instructional framework provides good quality Tier 1 instruction in our classrooms. Also, strategic use of assessment. Assessment can't be just a willy-nilly thing. There has to be a specific reason why we assess, and then what we do with the data from the assessment. And then that goes on to the next one, data-informed systems of support. So we want to make sure that as we are creating systems of support, again, there's reasons behind it. There's data to back that up. The nice thing about this strategic model is and we'll go over next steps in a moment, but once we get to all the elements, is we could very easily give reports annually or biannually to the Board of Education. We will create metrics or use the metrics we already have for each of these areas. And then we will know, how are we doing on curriculum, instruction, and assessment? What metrics are we using? How are we doing that? And we could go through that with each of those component areas. This provides transparency to the board of what we're doing. It also provides accountability for district leadership in where you guys are saying, this is important to us, show us how you're doing, and we'll be able to do that on a regular basis to the board. The next slide says next steps to further our strategic model. Identifying elements for the remaining components, and let me tell you what that'll look like. It's not just going to be the same group of people. We will bring in the experts in that area. So for instance, on that, the operations, when we talk about fiscal responsibility, well, we're certainly going to include LARC in that. When we talk about our providing a safe and orderly environment, well, we're going to have transportation a part of that. So we will have the experts in the school district help us to identify what elements are vital for component success. And then, like I said, we will also identify the measures, the metrics that we will use to measure ourselves for these elements and components, and then making sure that our definition of student success is clear. And then again, I just want to say that what this does, I think this is important work. This is one of the most fun projects I've had an opportunity to be a part of. And the reason why is because what it can do for the future. It can provide a systematic approach to becoming a comprehensively sound school district. I believe that that is what everyone in Tooele County School District wants, and I think that's what you as a board want. It illustrates our purposes, our activities, and our efforts. And probably the most important is that third one, and this is why I'm saying it again. It delivers metrics for each component, informing our progress, highlighting our growth, and holding us accountable for student success. I think that is what we all want. And then the next slide is just the people that have helped with the strategic model, and then just a reference page. Any questions you have about the strategic model that we can help clear up?
I do have a question or a concern or
Scott,
or suggestion or whatever.
Yeah.
The one observation is that I really think that there needs to be a parent or family component, and probably that it's a component. I don't think it's necessary, or at least part of one of those components,
Yeah.
because the reality is no matter how good we are in the school, we have to have that engagement with families. And I would suggest that it's not just and I got to do the term still, it's not just an element of one of those, but it's
But an actual
but it's
component.
and I don't know that it's necessarily its own
Component.
track,
Yeah.
but maybe it's part of the teacher leaders support staff, maybe wherever that fits naturally. Maybe it's the relationship and culture.
That's where I
But I think it's relationship, culture, and family engagement, or whatever you want to call that. But I think that it's really important that our messaging to our patrons is that families and parent involvement is high ranking and not just one of those subsets of one of those. That's my personal opinion, but I really think family is important in this conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And that's maybe you talk about experts. I mean, that's where it's Marie engaging the public and the
Correct.
community and whatever that looks like, right? But anyway, that's just my 2 bits on that.
Camille?
I love this, Mark. I think it's great. It'll kind of provide a focus and I want to say direction for everybody. But with that being said, I know you have a lot on your plate. I know everybody does. And I guess kind of what are your thoughts of making sure it doesn't become just something else that we have to do, and kind of the timeline of when the other components will be completed, and then we can really, I mean, it's already implemented. It's something everybody's already doing. It's just providing that focus, right? So
Correct.
when is that, something, I guess that we'll see more of it as the process plays out and it's finalized.
Yeah, so a couple different items on that. I think that, I agree we're busy, but I don't know, and you could talk to the other members on the group. I've never felt like this, we've done this, has really been difficult or hard work. It's been hard and difficult, but it's been fun. It's been so rewarding even to get us to this point. And there's a lot of excitement around this. So as we bring in the others, as we solidify our components, as we talk about what those elements are, I don't really know how long that'll take. I know that Cody presented to you guys in September, so it's taken us 2 months, about a month and a half to get to this point, to do one. So maybe by the end of the school year, I would hope to, and the reason why I say by the end of the school year is because we have our systems accreditation. Systems accreditation is going to give us, it's going to highlight some things we do really well. It's also going to highlight some things we do not so well. However, I'm convinced that as we take our report from Cognate, which we probably won't get the actual written report until late May, but I'm convinced that when we get that report, we will be able to lay that over this, and we will be able to say, okay, here's what Cognate says we do really well in. Oh, that's in our curriculum instruction and assessment component. Here's where we do really poorly in or not so good in. Maybe that's in our systems of operation. And then we can decide, a board can say, all right, here's where we know we're struggling. Let's start measuring that metric. And let's give a report in June of where we're at, then let's give a report in January, and then May again of how we're growing with that. So I think that I hesitate to say exactly how long. I want to say we can be done by spring. I really think we can.
And that's kind of what I was looking. I like the idea of laying it with Cognia and having them, because then that way we could look at next school year and start the year off running.
Yeah, absolutely.
But have a clear at least a path of where we're going, because we'll have it all spelled out.
Yeah,
everybody.
there would be no reason to not have enough of this ready to go and in place that it won't start mattering for next school year, that we can start doing it next school year.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And I just had a comment, and I agree with what Mark said, and I think some of this may go a little bit quicker now that we kind of have the process in place and have kind of figured that out, but it's also going to be really fluid, so that we'll get reports, but we'll be able to tweak them and change it and maybe ask for different data or, different things that we need or have. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we're already doing, but there might be things that we need to create to make that data chart or
Exactly,
metric.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I do think we'll find that some stuff we have and others, we're going to have to figure out exactly what are we going to use to measure, it, yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay,
We're
that's
excited.
great. Well, and I like what she said about it being fluid. Like if, you report this and Scott's like, oh, wait, what about that? And the board's going, oh, yeah, we need to put that on there. Or you're like, oh, yeah, it's in there. It's just, anyways, so thank you.
Yeah, so what I'll do is maybe as we continue to progress, Julia she's part of it, and Melissa, you've come. So we'll just kind of let you know, hey, we're ready to go with a more finalized draft copy, and then we can present it to you guys and then make final adjustments and go from there.
Okay. Anyone else with any comments? Thank you, Dr. Ernst. Appreciate it. Okay, next thing, board member roundtable. Please don't take more than, we say 2 minutes, 90 seconds. Scott's going to start the clock. Board member roundtable, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's just everyone on the board can say what they've been up to pertaining to the district or something that they want to bring up. So
I'm going to say there's 2 people gone. Can I just take their minutes for me?
No. Maybe. It depends. I don't know who makes that decision. Well, let's start with you, Julia.
Okay, so I really wanted to report on this committee. I honestly think it is the most important thing that we're doing as a district, in my opinion. I mean, to really get a focus, to get our values on what we really want to accomplish, and then make a plan to do it. But so when we meet again with John Lerner, he is going to do a matrix for us on an Excel sheet, and he has got a lot of different values, and all of these things will correspond to what we're doing with Mark and Cody. But I'm just wondering, do you guys want to do it as like a work meeting so that you can get, like Scott just said, family and things like that? Or do you want it to just be a small group of board members that decide and bring it back to the board?
I like the idea of the small group, because I'm just worried because we have the agenda already for November and we don't do a work session in December. So and we don't do one in January. So the next work session would be February unless we planned an extra one. And I think it's just going to get harder as we get into the holidays. So I think if we could just do a smaller committee and then bring it back to the board, we can move forward with it.
So is that good? I just want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, because for me, I think it's super important, and I want my voice to be heard. So I just want to make sure everybody has the same opportunity.
But we can come
Bob.
in, we can come in like next time John Lerner's here and things like that. Like I couldn't make the last meeting, but so
Yeah.
if you'll just let us know when they are, then maybe we can step in or whatever to kind
Okay.
of see the process. So.
And I think what we were talking about on that is, with this presentation, they should talk about overlay with strategic plan or with Cognia. This should as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it should
Okay.
all
So we'll just
align
keep
really
in
well.
touch, and if anyone wants to go, Julia will keep us informed on those, and we'll plan a time with John Lerner. Right?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and then also, Insurance
Okay, I'll give you
committee.
Alan's time.
Okay, thank you. Insurance committee has met, and I'm just reminding everybody to do all of their activity campaigns and their journeys and and they're still in process of doing some of the health checks and everything, because we need to get that 70% to keep our rates down, which is going to affect everybody. So that's a really important thing to put onto your schedule.
Okay.
Now I'm done.
Scott Bryan.
I let Julie have my 2 minutes. We're good, thank you.
Okay, Camille.
I just want to say thank you to the drivers. I know I have, my son goes to Clark and Johnson and Tooele Junior. And I was at Tooele Junior the other day, and they were announcing all the bus changes. I was shocked. I was like, I'm worried about our kids. I'm worried about how much time they're spending after school waiting for buses. And then I was at an elementary school. Same thing happened. Again, I'm worried about our kids. So I work a lot with our legislators, and I know that busing is a huge issue for a lot of them come next spring. Will you send me, I already sent you an email, but will you send me your comments so I can share those with legislators so they can see firsthand really how the busing affects our district and what we can do to get either funding or update the benefits is tricky because of the state laws, but we've got to do something because what's working is not working. So other than that, I meet with Tooele Tech tomorrow. And tomorrow night is their Student of the Year awards, and I'm really excited.
Okay, sounds great. Bob.
Well, first of all, I was going to mention I got to attend the Sterling Eagle Hour. Is that what that's called at Sterling? Sterling Eagle Hour, and that was a lot of fun. I was impressed with how the kids broke up, and they broke up fairly quick to get into their clubs and things like that. Somehow I got assigned to go to robotics. Some of you former teachers know how I am with technology. That was a little bit of a stretch. I was having a great time until they asked me to run one of them, and mine was the slowest one for sure. But the kids did a fantastic job. I also, while I was up there, got to spend a little bit of time and look at some possibilities of how to report data in different types of things, maybe to help. And I appreciate the comments that have been brought in about trying to streamline the day and things like that. And I appreciate the ideas. It's hard, I think it's great to come in with some ideas when we're discussing things, like the drivers did today. I appreciate those type of ideas and things, so thank you.
Okay. I just want to give a shout out to our 2 of the football teams. Grantsville's made the state championships. So hats off to Cowboys. And the Stallions are headed to the semis this week. So I'm going to shout out to them. So sorry. Okay, let's move on to our action items. We've got our 2021-2022 TSSA plans. Point of contact is area directors. Did anybody have any questions, comments, concerns for TSSA plans? Or are we going to make a motion? Bob, is your light on, or are you?
I just maybe left it
on. Oh, I'll turn mine back on. That sounds good. Does anyone have questions? Do area directors have comments? I'm assuming not.
I'll make the motion that we accept the
streamline.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How it was presented in the packet was really good.
I'll make the motion that we accept the 2021-22 TSSA plans.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Bob, seconded by Julie to accept the 2021-2022 TSSA plans. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, 6.2 positive behaviors plan. Approve the positive behavior plan as submitted. Matt Jackson is our point of contact, and Julie Spindler. Do you guys need to say anything? Does board members have questions? Okay. Camille?
The only thing I was thinking, and she's going to kill me for this. I know the superintendent sent out an email about second step and some of the concerns, and I was hoping that maybe Julie can come up and discuss what our lovely district has already done. That would be awesome.
Yes, I'd be glad to. So, Second Step's been in the news a lot. So we have done a lot with parents and really trying to educate the public about Second Step and how we have implemented Second Step in our district. It came about, as you know, from a teacher from Canyon's district, that there were some things in the 7th grade curriculum that he did not agree with. And we really went through a lot of that with a fine-tooth comb. And some parents actually brought some things to light that we really appreciated. One of which was a website that I went on and would not talk to my 18-year-old about some of the things that were on that website. I immediately went to Chantel Cowan and said, "What do you think about this?" And she looked, and much of what was on that website is against the law. Second Step is developed in the state of Washington, and I immediately called our representative while Chantel went to IT and said, block that website from any server in our district. And he told me, our rep in Washington just said, it might take us a couple weeks to kind of look at it and get it to our development team. And I said, that's fine, because really that lesson is not taught until March. And so we're a little ways out. And he called me back the next morning and said, we have removed it from every bit of curriculum that we have, including another website that was not caught. So I've worked with several parents, met with them one-on-one, gone through the curriculum, looked through videos, all those kinds of things, answered questions. It wasn't, the K-5 curriculum is not what has been of concern to people. It's been more the middle school curriculum. But if you talk to teachers, they love it. And administrators love it, and kids love it. But definitely with some of the updates that they put in, I'm glad that some of that has been brought to light prior to our kids receiving.
I agree. I know as a parent, I know my kids have brought home a couple of things, and it's actually been really great because it's helped us have some really great conversations that I don't know that I wouldn't say they wouldn't have happened, but it was nice that they were like, hey, Mom, what about this? And so it was a good conversation starter. So
and
I
we
appreciated
immediately
it.
got a hold of, since it was in the media, we got a hold of the paper and had him come and observe a classroom being with teaching Second Step. And he wrote a great article and endorsing it. So if there's any other suggestions, we're glad to take those. But we're kind of doing it on an individual basis. If teachers or parents have concerns, I've just let principals know, if you want to just send them my way, I'm glad to speak to them so that it takes it off their plate.
That sounds awesome. Thank you.
You bet. Other questions? Okay.
Any comments? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the positive behavior plans for, looks like all schools? Yes, for all schools.
Second.
It's been moved by Camille, seconded by Bob, to approve the positive behavior plans for all schools. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next, revised policy 1006, Board meeting rules and procedures. This is the first read. Terry Christensen.
So what you have in front of you is more reflective of current practice. As we went through that, we noticed some things, as well as some language that we just felt like needed to be taken out. There's nothing in the state code that makes those red line strike through that there has to be any more discussion in regard to those, but we always want to make sure that you have at least first read and any other questions in regard to that, so we can make some changes if you feel needed.
There is one. It's just a math problem.
Yeah.
And so under D2, individuals will receive 3 minutes in groups, but it's the discuss the same will be limited to 6 speakers with a maximum of 30 minutes. That's not, I mean, does that make sense? Or you just,
Yeah, we can.
the 6 at 5 minutes made sense to 30 minutes.
Right.
I guess my point is, we really don't, because sometimes people get up and it's a 60-second spiel. So my suggestion to this would just be simply that individuals will receive 3 minutes. And you could strike the rest of that
Okay.
sentence, I think. Because if they take 90, the point is, I still agree that the 30 minutes is appropriate, but if we can get 25 people in here in 30 minutes, great. I mean, that would be really quick comments, but my point is, I don't think by policy, we need to limit it to us.
I agree. I think if we just list the time limit for each speaker and then the maximum time that we're going to have patron comments, I think we're fine.
So we'll revamp the math and.
But isn't that saying, isn't it, it's saying limited to 6 speakers. It's the 6 speakers on the same item. It's not 6 speakers in the 30 minutes, as if, say we had a boundary issue or a bus driver, whatever, and there's more than 6 people talking about the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but I guess as long as my sense is, as long as we have the 30-minute.
It doesn't matter if 12 people are
And I
talking
think
about
first
it.
come-
Okay.
When you sign up, you don't know who's speaking about what, and so if
They
you
do, they put the topic.
Sometimes.
Well, okay,
Sometimes, but you don't know if it's
if
pro
you were
or
the first
con.
one
Oh,
or whatever.
okay.
I'm just saying, like, if they sign up and they want to speak, as long as it's under 30 minutes, let them
let's do
speak.
it.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay,
And keep it to 3 minutes each.
perfect.
That's all.
Sure.
I think we're all on the same page. We don't need to.
Don't need to bring it back or just
Well,
go with it.
I guess it's just how we motion this.
Right.
Well, I would motion that we adopt policy 1006 with the change to, as presented, with one exception being D2, where it would just read, individuals will read 3 minutes. Will receive 3 minutes
With a maximum of
with
30
a maximum
minutes.
of 30 minutes per
comment period or whatever.
per patron comments.
We can make that change for sure.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Been motioned by Scott, seconded by Bob, to approve revised policy 1006 with the exception of D2, where it will state individuals will receive 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes for patron comments.
That's perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, open enrollment boundary closures. Area directors, you're our point people. Who's coming up? All 3? Oh yeah, it's not really, I don't think it's affecting Grantsville. Yes, we'll take Tooele and Stansbury or growth right now. Grantsville's not far behind though. There's growth.
So we're just acknowledging that, I don't want to speak for Sarah, so I'll just speak to Tooele High School, but Tooele High School is well over their full capacity, about 300 over. And so we're just acknowledging that. Although the out of bounds, I will say I pulled the numbers, and the out of bounds, like Tooele High School only has a total of 45 out of bounds students. So I don't know, and if you look at Stansbury High School's out of bounds students, it's pretty much a wash. So I don't know if it's worth the hullabaloo.
Can I throw a curveball?
Yeah.
What about Sterling?
Sterling Elementary. So the problem with our DLI schools is that we can't close boundaries because we need those speakers to build their programs. So then you'd have to use language like, well, we're closing boundaries unless you want to get in the Portuguese program, or we're closing boundaries unless you want to participate in the Spanish program, and that's really a tough way
Because
to
they're over
enforce
capacity
that.
though, right?
I don't think they're over. They are in that medium
Close.
range. They're not in that.
Full and stretch or max?
Yeah, they're in their stretch and approaching their full.
What I would tell you is that we have internal procedures that we can utilize to support and help with several schools that are in that situation, and we've been utilizing those, so.
Okay.
So more or less, we put it on the agenda just for you guys to make a decision, just to make you aware that, hey, Tooele High, Stansbury High, Clark Johnson are well over their what's defined.
My observation, I just did, to your point, the fast math, I mean, even if you took, and I realize that some students come out of Grantsville, but for argument's sake, let's just say that they all came out of Tooele and Stansbury, vice versa, and you forced 114 kids, or 113 kids back to Tooele from Stansbury, but then you turn around and force 45 out of Tooele back to Stansbury, the net gain is only 68 students, but you've managed to make 160 families very upset with you, and the net gain is only 60 students. I mean, it feels like to me the pain. It would be different if Stansbury was bursting at seams and Tooele was sitting empty, but it's not the case. So that's my sense.
Well, and my concern, and I think I can answer my own question, Jeff, but I'll ask you guys. We have students that are coming from other schools. I'm assuming this is just this is their home school, right? But we have students that float from school to school because of dual languages or whatever. And it's going to increase a little bit the problem as we get into the high school with dual languages. We also see that with CTE. We also see that with some of the college classes and things. They have to be able to follow. But I think I heard, Mark, that those kids can still do that. We're talking mainly about the home number or the base number for this.
That's right.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I say, I'm not here advocating because I tend to agree with Scott that it's pretty much a wash and it's not worth the hullabaloo. But this is the time of year, like this is the deadline that we had to bring it before the board. So we just wanted to present it for your consideration because after tonight, the window passes and then you can't close them for another year.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
One thing that's important to remember is that you have a couple options. You could certainly close boundaries and just say, and everyone reverts back to their home school. You could close boundaries for any new requests, and anyone that is currently at, say, Stansbury High, they remain there until they graduate or they're grandfathered in or they choose to go back. You could also say that you will allow families to stay together. So for instance, I'm a 7th grader an 8th grader at Tooele High this year, but all my siblings go to Stansbury High. You could allow that. And that gets kind of sticky to track, but again, it keeps those families together. I mean, so there are some options you could play with. It just depends on, for lack of a better word, kind of how messy we want to make it.
So, can I ask a question, Melissa?
Oh, yes.
Aren't principals already denying out of bounds right now?
So that's what I was going to say to your point about Sterling, for example, is we look at, well, I want to speak for, when we look at an out-of-boundary request, the first thing we do is pull the grade level average and look at the class number. And if it's above, if it's above 26, 28, we just say no based upon that. So while the school boundaries aren't closed, we say we're sorry at this time, this grade level is full.
Okay.
And so that's a means I think that Sarah was alluding to, that so we have the ability to control that there as well, at least for the elementaries. It's so much messier at the high school.
But I thought I heard even some of the high schools are denying as well. Depending on, I guess, the circumstances that Dr. Ernst mentioned earlier, right?
Well,
like if they're families or if they're already grandfathered in or whatever circumstances.
ultimately, area directors are the ones that usually deny them. We usually communicate with principals at times, but yes,
You've been denying them as well. So what's the point of having the board deny or close boundaries then if it's already being done? Is it just one kind of concrete?
Well, we would close
Well, the
the
board
school.
decided it.
It becomes formal.
It becomes a
Okay.
formal thing, whereas they have the ability, and
we
I
wouldn't
think
have the ability to say, yes, you can go there anymore. The answer would just be,
No.
the door is closed, yeah.
which I don't think.
Unless,
well, I'm
as
not to
Dr.
that
Ernst
point.
explained,
unless-
you chose one of those options.
Can I also say that I did occasionally, very rarely, we do have parents who appeal the decision of the area director. Those come to me. And I will tell you that I have upheld that denial each time except for one. It was a unique situation. I worked with the administration at Tooele High and Stansbury High to help this student. And so there are situations where we still do look at circumstances that the student needs help. And so there are pathways to
figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we need to actually take a motion, do we, that we adopt open boundaries for the 21, 22?
I don't think we need to do anything because
Unless we
we're not
unless we do
closing,
the
unless
opposite.
we're closing
Okay.
them.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, I know Camille was gonna ask this.
So I know, regardless of closing boundaries, I know, because like you said, it is a wash and looking at the numbers and all that, but we definitely have some issues in our schools. Are you saying that we need to maybe look at boundaries and before the new high school comes out and kind of make some steps going forward that way, especially in the Stansbury
Well, I
area?
think we're just implying like Old Mill is high, but then Stansbury Elementary and
And that's
Rose Springs are low
And that's a separate
issue.
and conversation. But yes, that is necessary over time. Yeah, there are some hot spots.
I agree with Scott on this issue. I think it's kind of a wash. I don't see a purpose of.
No need to pick a fight.
That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It has to be dramatic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. Like I say, we weren't advocating for that, but simply bringing it to your attention.
And I appreciate that because we don't want it to go the other way, right? If there was a feeling on the board that we should be closing and we missed the deadline,
right?
You're spot on, and I think, but you're hearing kind of what the board's thinking, so.
And I think it's
We're all
important
aligned.
that you're aware that, at
That's-
least at our high schools, we're having to deny for the most part, unless there are extenuating circumstances. And at
But
court.
I still do think that we need to have that boundary conversation sooner rather than later.
With those
as much as it is, I know
elementaries.
it's a hard one, but especially out in Stansbury, I don't think we can wait 4 years till the high
And I
school
know it's a
comes.
hard one, but our community is also changing a lot more than it was 20 years ago when boundary changes were
Here-
coming. We know, people know.
But one suggestion on specific to Stansbury Elementary boundaries, that really is independent even of the high schools. Because the reality is, especially there, all three of those schools that we're talking about are still going to go to Stansbury High School.
Right.
You're just adjusting the pieces of those pies to equal that. And so I don't see that being the high schools being even a conversation for those elementary schools.
No,
there.
it's not. That's what.
And the
yeah.
feeder schools still stay the same. It's just
Yes.
really a.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Melissa, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
On those elementary schools in Stansbury Park, is that something you want us to look at for next school year?
I would
I
think,
think
so.
so.
I think that's
For Old Mill in the situation, just talking to Mr. Rannicki, when was that? Last week? Yeah, we need to look at that.
Scott, you have a comment?
Just check I'm not sure you can. I don't remember, Dr. Ernst, there's some cutoff and deadlines by law, I think, aren't
Okay,
there?
we'll verify.
You
And
just
I-
got to be legal. That's all.
Yeah, yes.
And you're right, because there has to be an open, like a public hearing and 60 days and all that kind of stuff.
I
and-
think you may be past that for next
For next year. And that's fine, but I'm
But
just saying
that's
it
just
needs
for
to be
memory.
sooner than later.
Just be legal, that's all.
Well, we can definitely work on it, and it's needed.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and just where the growth is and the landlocked school, I mean, you know that anyways, so.
And I would dare to say even for Sterling, it's needed. Just throwing that out there.
So, anyways, thank you very, very much. Okay. Action item, does someone want to move us in? Is that
I'll
right?
motion that we move to executive session to be held in the boardroom.
No, not in the boardroom.
Oh, we're going, well, there's only 5 of us, we can do this. Okay.
Yeah.
So I motion that we move to executive session to be held in the executive conference room at the district office to discuss character, professional competency, or physical and mental health of an individual, pending a reasonable litigation, purchase and exchange or lease of real property, and to convene at 7:50. That clock threw me a curve. It's like, where did an hour go?
Let's do like 53.
7:50.
Okay, it's been moved by Scott, seconded by Bob to move into executive session to discuss purchase and exchange of or lease of property pending or reasonable imminent litigation, character, professional competence, or physical, mental health of an individual at 7:50. Bob? Camille? Me as I? Aye, yes.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.